Hey everybody, what's up? And welcome back to another episode of Chasing 518. Today we take my 2017 KTM 150 XCW and we're going to put a Smart Carb on it. If I jet the bike for sea level where I live and then take it up to the mountains where I like to ride, it runs horrible. If I jet it while I'm up there on a trip and get it close with the tools I have and the time I can spend, it's okay, and then it runs horrible when I get back home. So I'm tired of that. So we're gonna try the Smart Carb. It supposedly compensates for altitude and temperature changes. Got the bike all cleaned up. I'll show you guys a cold start on the current carburetor and get it warmed up, kind of show you how it runs, and then we'll shut it down and take it all apart. One of the big problems I always have is if it idles for any extended period of time, when you go to get back on the throttle or take off again, it just runs horrible, like it's just been flooding the bottom end with fuel, smokes like crazy, falls on its face, and it takes a while to clear it out. So I'm hoping that maybe more than anything, we talk about, you know, cleaner, more efficient, more power. I'm really just hoping the thing just runs good. Let's see if it's loaded up. There we go. So there you go, that's how it loads up on me. Really frustrating. I'm gonna go rip the bike really hard and then shut it off, and I'm gonna pull the spark plug and show you guys the current plug reading, and then when we do the carburetor, I'll put a brand new plug in, and after we ride it for a bit, we'll check another plug reading. Okay, first thing we did was pull the spark plug out of the bike, just to kind of get a read on it. It's got a lot of buildup on it. The color's not that bad, but I don't know that this is gonna come out for you guys. But Smart Carb recommends that you put a new plug in when you install the carburetor. Let's see what we got here in the box. First thing to come out of the box is the instruction manual. Also has a couple little drop-ins. One is a readme that's got some must-do installation instructions, and then on the back it has all your customized jetting based on what kind of bike you told them you have, what kind of modifications you have made to your bike. In my case, it's got a high compression head insert, it's got an aftermarket silencer, but it's got a stock pipe. So we'll see how accurate they are. Then it's got a little bifold with all the sales points, and then the instruction manual is actually really thick, and it's got a lot of good little nuggets in it. I read this whole thing already, and I'll show you some of the highlights as we go and we get this installed. Right there on top, the carburetor. So this is the Smart Carb SC2 36 millimeter. I think they make like a 36, 38, and 40 because my bike is so small displacement wise, 150 cc. This is the recommended carburetor. It's got very minimal adjustments to it. So it's got idle speed, which lifts the slide. It's got fuel inlet. It's got choke, and then this is the mechanism to adjust the needle position once you've got it installed and on the bike. Kind of one of the cool things about it is that you can make what essentially were needle clip adjustments on a traditional carburetor, you can make with this knob. They give you an inline fuel filter that they want you to run, obviously to keep the carburetor clean so you don't have any issues there. Maybe now's a good time to mention that this isn't a sponsored video. Smart Carb didn't provide me this carburetor. I bought this because I wanted to try it. Loose, rotated it kind of 90 degrees to the left, pulled the top plate out, and now we got to disconnect the factory throttle cable from the slide cover of the old carburetor, and then we can get the carburetor the rest of the way out. Okay, there we go. So got the Makuni pulled off. Was not hard, but not maybe the easiest thing to do, but it's all right. I'm gonna put these parts together just so I don't lose them. And then we'll move on to the next step. Here's probably the most custom part of the install is they talk about this. This port right here is how the carburetor references atmospheric pressure. And the factory air boot, for whatever reason, occludes that spot. So I'm gonna put the carburetor in the air boot and show you what I'm talking about. I've put the carburetor in the intake air boot just to check this fitment. Can't see the top of that port because there's rubber in the air intake boot that's in the way. So they want you to shave that rubber out of the way. So we'll pull the carburetor and whittle away at that with a razor blade, I think. Took my time with a razor blade. Just reached in there from the carburetor access side and just slowly trimmed away some of the, it's kind of a rigid rubber, cuts more like plastic. And now you can see that full port down there. So we're good to go. Let's move on. Next step. Step 2 in the process is make sure that the needle valve assembly that controls fuel flow into the carburetor wasn't compromised during shipping, so they want you to blow into it with the carb upright, and you should be able to blow air in as if it were fuel. But then if the carburetor was full, that it's blocked. So we've done that. That's good. Now we'll move on to the next step, which is throttle cable and slide attachment and installation. So we got to pull the top cap off. We'll grab an Allen wrench and do that. 3mm Allen pulls the bolts out of the top. Okay, now that we've got this, we need to pull the slide out. With the slide comes a washer for the cable. And now I think we go install this on the throttle cable. I've got the top cover, the slide and spring and needle all installed on the throttle cable. Now it wants me to go over there, put it in the carburetor with the carburetor out of the bike and verify that we have enough slack in the throttle cable so that we're not lifting the slide up and elevating the idle. So let's go mock that up. So I can already tell that with just the throttle cable installed that I've lost all my free play. I have nothing here. So we'll loosen this and put a bunch of free play back in. Loosen the lock nut, thread that in. Now we've got free play again, so we're good to proceed. Adjusting the throttle cable free play is the last step before actually installing the carburetor. So I'm going to pull the throttle cable assembly and slide back out of the carburetor and then get it situated between the air boot and the reed valve. Okay, I went in without too much fight. They recommend that you try to get it as vertical as you can on a clocking, but it can handle 15 degrees either way. Looks like mine's gonna be pretty much just dead vertical. I'm gonna go ahead and get the subframe bolts in because that's gonna apply a little bit of pressure and keep the carburetor tight between the boots, and we'll get the throttle cable installed, and I think we're kind of on the tail end of this. Okay, carburetor is in, tight, set up vertically, tighten both boots. I'm gonna put all the subframe back together, put a new spark plug in it, I put a clean air filter in, and then put the gas tank on, figure out the new fuel line and fuel filter setup, and then I think we'll be ready to fire it up. I'm sure this is exactly what you're not supposed to do, but they're doing some kind of crazy ditch witch underground utility project out in my street, so it's making a bunch of noise. But bike's back together, back outside, get you on the tripod and fire it up. And it's windy now too. Pull on, choke on. Smart Carb says not to make any changes for a couple hours. They actually talk about the carburetor breaking in. I get their point of leaving it alone. So sounds like the idle's a touch low, but I'll get it warmed up and I'll take it for a run, maybe go get some lunch and just give you guys my initial impressions. First impression of the Smart Carb carburetor is good. It's better than the jetting that I had. But the bike doesn't run perfect, and I don't want to blame the carburetor. I think I could very well have a situation where it's time to put a top end in this bike. So it very well could be compression based issue. I'm going to do some more research on that. You can also tune the power valve on this. So the idle's really clean. The power is great. It wheelies in like third and fourth gear, just coming on the throttle, which it didn't do before. So I can feel the horsepower increase. When it idles for long periods of time and then you go to take off again, it runs cleaner than it did, but it still is a little, it kind of struggles in the mid-range until it clears out. So I think, again, haven't messed with the jetting that they give you because I want to follow the instructions, and that said ride it an hour or two, and I've probably only ridden it, 20 minutes. So I'm gonna put some fuel through it, ride it more, and then I'll kind of get into the tuning. But good product, looks really well made, high attention to detail, good craftsmanship, really thorough instructions. So I'm happy with the purchase so far. Like I said, bike makes good power. It's supposed to save fuel too. It's supposed to get a lot better fuel economy, which I'm really looking forward to, because I put this big tank on my bike because a lot of the KTM 500s that I ride with in the desert, they had more fuel than I did at the end of a ride. So hopefully we get some good longevity out of it.